Patrons, gather round. It's pre-show time again.
Really? That's amazing. So like this is like the moment like before the show.
Yes.
I
Well,
mean,
it's the show before the show.
so this is like only for patrons.
This is
It's like a private club.
exactly. It's a private club for the privileged.
Keeps out children and poor people and anybody who's gone to the medical center across from Mr. Cacciatore's
It definitely keeps out the people across from the
down
medical.
Sullivan Street.
Yeah, down on Sullivan Street. Yes, definitely those people. That's
All
important.
right. So none of our patrons have ever been to that medical center on Sullivan Street.
I mean, Andrew might have. I don't. Some of these New Jersey folk. I don't know. I don't know what they do. They go slumming around sometimes, and you know,
do a little urgent care. Tie one on too many at Mr. Cacciatore's, and you've got to go get your stomach pumped across the road. Well, you can't be too careful these days. No. Well, how is everything in the Golden State?
Everything's beautiful. Everything's beautiful. We're all psyched, really hyped up for Pride Month. We're entering Pride Month, so that's a big deal over here. Yeah, what are you doing for Pride Month?
Not much. I'm gearing up for July and Gluttony Month.
That's fair.
Every month gets a deadly sin assigned to it. July's gluttony. That's. I'm really gonna be living large in July. I'll tell you what. Why do you think they have those 4th of July barbecues? It's because it's gluttony. I mean, you just gotta cram as many chicken legs and sausages and steaks and burgers and hot dogs, whatever you can. Just wolf them down all through July.
Oh man.
I mean, basically, you shouldn't let a dish pass by you without grabbing something off of it. Cotton candy, deep fried ice cream, whatever it is. Why do they have all those county fairs in July?
Oh man.
Gluttony Month.
That reminds me of a moment I had with my dad. Back in 2011, we went to not 2011, 2001. We had went to the Franchini family reunion. I think it was like
I remember that. You had a lot of torpedoes and triggermen guarding the joint. I remember.
Right, exactly. Yep. So obviously, when the boss is gone, you have to guard it. But that was crazy because we got back right before 9/11 happened that year, because we were there. Like we were in New York.
You were tipped off.
We were tipped off, right? Yeah.
You better get back right away. Don't wait any longer. Better come home.
But at the reunion, I mean, there was so much food, and the Italian grandmothers, they're like it's like you've got to eat. It's a huge sign of disrespect if you don't eat, and we were bursting. We were absolutely bursting. I've never felt like that in my life. And I remember on the airplane home, my dad said to me, "Okay, the way we survive this is we don't eat for 3 days, and then when we get there, we say we just ate." and then maybe we'll make it through okay.
Well, yeah, you were lucky it was September. Imagine if you've been doing during Gluttony Month.
I know, Gluttony Month. Yep. Well, yeah.
But September is Anger Month.
September's Anger Month. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, because of people going back to school, they get very, very upset.
I never that's why your favorite season being fall is a quizzical choice for me, because I associate fall with going back to school, and sort of I bring all that sort of memory feedback with me, like, oh, it's fall, this is always the letdown time.
Well, that's. I mean, it's what I remember most about. I mean, I didn't enjoy going back to school, but what I was looking forward to was Halloween.
Wow, so you're really, so you're prime. So early September, you're already thinking Halloween. Let's go.
Oh yeah. Even as a boy, when they didn't have the first Halloween stuff appear in late July, uh, back where, you didn't see when I was a kid, you didn't see Halloween stuff at all before the 1st of October.
Wow.
But you were thinking about it, not least because it was a distraction from having to go back to school.
I wonder if you would have been an innovator if you were like a store owner, and if you would have begun that trend of, well, that Halloween creep.
Oh,
No?
no, because I mean, I honestly, I really don't like creeps, if you'll pardon that. I mean, I don't like creeps in general, but I don't like holiday creeps. I really don't. I I like there to be a relatively rational thing. I mean, okay, you can see a month for Halloween. Okay, Halloween's over. Now we're gonna do Thanksgiving, and we're gonna do Thanksgiving, not Christmas. The big thing will be on turkey and pilgrims and so forth. And then Thanksgiving is over. You've got a month, and now, I mean, I remember the Santa Claus Lane Parade was always on the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and then the Thanksgiving parade, Macy's Thanksgiving Parade in New York, was oddly enough on Thanksgiving Day. Well, both of them at the end of the parade featured Santa Claus in his sleigh, signaling the beginning of the Christmas buying season. And that made perfect sense because, Thanksgiving is over. Now we got Christmas. Now, of course, in those days, people didn't really think too much about the 12 days of Christmas, but um, you didn't. I mean, we did. We thought about the Epiphany and so forth, but most people in those days didn't. Nevertheless, you didn't take down the decorations or anything till at least New Year's Day. Uh, and then you begin thinking about February. And in those days, February was not just Valentine's Day. It was also Washington's birthday. And they'd have different ads and sales for Washington's birthday. They did not have Black Friday.
I feel like post COVID that a lot more people are keeping up their lights after January 1st. Just because it's sort of this thing where we need. I remember in COVID, well, at least also my family did too, because my dad had passed. So it was kind of that, cheery little thing. A lot of people actually did Christmas lights year round. I think, going into 2021, they just kept them up.
It
And
made them feel better.
yeah,
I mean, and that, we've had this discussion before.
yeah.
I think it's not just about extending the sales. I also think that both Halloween and Christmas creep has been because normal life is so awful.
Yes, exactly. That's kind
That,
of where I was getting to. Yeah.
yeah, people are sort of taking refuge in the holidays, and I can't say either that I blame them or that it's necessarily an unhealthy or bad thing.
Yeah.
It's a kind of weird protest, against the garbage that they're subjected to. I mean, stop and think about this for a minute. Um, we've got this election coming up. We've got the senile guy on the one hand. The court just found the Trumpster guilty on all counts. He'll probably appeal. it'll probably all be knocked down, but they'll still be yelling about how he's a convicted felon. Uh, I mean, really, when the United States of America are descending into sort of a cross between Weimar and a banana republic, you know, yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy Halloween. Give me some punch. Shut the door. Lock it. Lock the windows. Draw the curtains. Let's sing us some Christmas carols.
Oh man, that's funny. For some reason, that reminds me of the movie I saw. It's a very interesting movie. Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. Kind of this,
Oh,
this strange mix of total elegance with, yeah, this zombie apocalypse thing is part of the world. So it's like, yeah, we have to deal with this, but at the same time, you have sort of the Regency era and all of this.
you're maintaining your standards.
Yeah.
Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. Well, I knew I didn't read it, but I knew the book came out.
Yeah.
And of course, I remember there were two Abraham Lincoln biopics that came out at once. One was a very solemn one with Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln, but the other was Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Right. Right. Yeah.
A side of Honest Abe none of us ever knew existed.
Yeah, so anyhow, all right, anything else before we get to the questions?
Oh, well, it's a quiet day here in Lake Wobegon, my hometown here on the prairies. Wait a minute, wrong show. Sorry, never
Yeah.
mind. No, actually, a couple of things for patrons. I'll make the announcement again during the regular show, but I will be in England next week. I'll be for Father Honnick's funeral on the 4th. I'll be speaking on the 8th at St. Agatha's Church in Portsmouth, England, which is the biggest ordinariate church in England. And if anybody here is English and you want to see me or meet me, that's the time to do it. Well, not at Father Honnick's funeral, but drop me a line and let me know, because I'll be in Oxford on the 7th. I may be in Winchester, which is the city I've always wanted to visit. In Winchester Hall, they've got the round table and all that. It's just something, and I've always wanted to see Winchester Cathedral, having grown up singing the song. Winchester Cathedral, Odo, you're bringing me down. Odo, you stood and you watched as Odo, my baby left town. Now everyone knows just how much I needed that gal. She wouldn't have gone far away if only you'd started ringing your bell. Winchester Cathedral, Odo, you're bringing me down. You didn't do nothing. My baby left town. Odo, 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 do.
Beautiful.
I like a song like that. It's got some philosophy to it. Makes you think.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Helvicio, bunch of questions. He says, reading a book on America's imperialist course of foreign policy inaugurated by the Spanish-American War has raised some more questions in my mind. I hope that they prove interesting to you and the fine patrons of this show. First question.
Okay.
Is the Philippine Insurrection the most shameful conflict in which the United States have participated in terms of injustices and crimes committed on the opposing side? I understand more Filipinos were killed or died of mistreatment in this 41-month-long conflict than in 3.5 centuries of Spanish rule.
Well, yes and no. I mean, certainly the Philippine insurrection was a terrible conflict, and we really messed up the Philippines, to be honest with you. But you can't really separate it from the Spanish-American War as a whole. Um, our takeover of the Philippines was in so many ways terribly wrong, but so is our takeover of Guam, Cuba, and Puerto Rico. The whole war with Spain was so wrong. There's nothing to be said for it. It was just a grab. The Mexican War wasn't much good either. The War of 1812 was an attempt to snatch and grab Canada that went terribly wrong. You know how I feel about our first Civil War and our second Civil War. World War One, I mean, man, did we mess things up. World War II is a bit more justifiable, but even there, our number one insistence on unconditional surrender, and number two, our deal with the Soviets was pretty shady, pretty dodgy. Then we got Korea, Vietnam. Of the two, I mean, their stated goals were great. Their execution left something to be desired. And then, of course, we had the Forever War, which now the injustice or lack of it of any of these conflicts does not take away from the bravery of the American soldiers who fought in them, nor does it take away from the responsibility of the American public and what passes for their government to look after the veteran and his dependents. But we just have a very bad history when it comes to intervening.
What's the best job we've ever done on sort of like a conflict? Like where it's like, well, man, yeah, there's a problem area and we patched it up.
Well, Grenada.
Oh, so Reagan.
Yeah. You could argue we did fairly well by Panama under Reagan.
Yeah.
Those are probably our best, actually.
Okay. All right, very good. How do you evaluate the political career of Henry Cabot Lodge, the senator from Massachusetts, who was a close friend and political ally of Theodore Roosevelt?
Well, he was, for the most part, by his own lines anyway, he was a fairly honest man. He was certainly an expansionist, like Roosevelt.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean, he was in favor of the takeover of the Philippines, Cuba, Puerto Rico, etc. In other words, he was very keen on the United States taking their place beside the other world powers as an empire and so on. I mean, one thing you got to remember about those guys is they were very much imbued with the idea. The ideas of A, the cult of progress, and B, that American expansion was part of that progress, and that we were bringing light and goodness, etc., to countries that needed it. Which I probably would have agreed with had they been countries that were heathen, rather than countries that were already formed in the Catholic Church, the Catholic faith.
Yeah.
But you might say that was, in a certain sense, the penultimate gasp of the wasp.
All right, leading up to President McKinley's assassination, anarchists had killed many other heads of state. President Sadi Carnot of France, Prime Minister Antonio Canovas of Spain, Empress Elizabeth of Austro-Hungary, and King Umberto of Italy. Did these anarchists really want to bring about a stateless society, or were their goals more in line with communism or Freemasonry?
Well, I think that they believed that the overthrow of the entire class structure would allow man to become naturally wonderful. You see, all of these ideas are based on the notion that man is corrupt because his institutions are corrupt. Either get rid of them or reform them, and man will automatically become good. Uh, and of course, the other thing is that the anarchists believed that if they assassinated enough major figures, it would precipitate a universal revolution. And of course, this never happened.
Hmm.
All that can be said is they managed to kill a lot of people.
Well, I guess what was the root cause of the anarchy? I mean, is it communist? Is it Marxism? I mean, what
Um,
is that?
well, no, not really, and you can see that. I mean, in Spain, even though the anarchists and the communists are on the same side in supporting the quote unquote loyalists in Spain, they fought each other as much as they fought the nationalists. The same was true in the Ukraine and Russia. The black flag of anarchy did not really mix well with the red flag of communism. Uh, but anarchism, it's the idea that if there's no government and no structure in life, man will be able to flower and be wonderful.
But it seemed like there was a spike in sort of the anarchist movement back then compared
Oh
to
yeah,
any other
yeah,
time. And so I'm wondering
sure.
what the catalyst was for that.
Oh, I would say the Industrial Revolution and the intensity of the misery of the industrial mob, the urban mob in the last
Oh,
portion of the 19th century. I mean, it was pretty horrible. Don't forget, this was when tubercular milk was being knowingly sold to slum children in England.
right.
I mean, this was the age of social Darwinism, when a lot of moneyed people looked at the poor as not only poor, but deserving of their poverty. And this was when eugenics became very big. So, in a sense, anarchism was an answer to all of that.
Hmm.
And it was very blind, it was very stupid, and it lumped everybody in together. Empress Elizabeth with McKinley, which, well, okay, fine. But basically, it was striking out at any kind of governmental order, government structure, in hopes of precipitating a universal revolution that would end governments and usher in the wonderful world tomorrow.
Beautiful. All right. Andrew from New Jersey has a bunch of questions.
I'll bet.
He always does. Hey, Andrew.
You know why? You know why? Andrew is still overwrought because of the closure of the Union Carbide factory. He woke up one day, and for the first time in all the years he lived in Jersey, he smelled clear air.
This is like
And he
a
thought, my God, something's happened to the factory. He rushed down to
wow.
find out. Yeah, he rushed down to find out it had closed. You know how upset he was? I mean, Union Carbide was a stream of Northeast Jersey. It gave the area its unique fragrance.
Beautiful. All right. Charles has spoken positively about Richard Wagner's Arthurian opera Parsifal. But what are his thoughts on Wagner's other Arthurian operas, Lohengrin and Tristan und Isolde? Furthermore, what are Charles's thoughts on Wagner overall as both a composer and as a Romantic era public intellectual?
Well, I like Lohengrin. Uh, and Tristan and Isolde, the as is always the case with Tristan and Isolde, the moral piece is problematic. But it's just the way that is. Uh, Lohengrin and Tannhauser, of course, are closely connected. Uh, they're lovely and they're beautiful, especially when they're performed in a medieval-esque type of thing, rather than let's do Tristan and Isolde's West Side Story. Yeah, I hate it when they play games. We had the ring cycle in LA, and a lot of it was done with puppets, which was sort of weird. But ever since World War II, people have tried to reimagine Wagner's operas by weird staging. Anyway, what do I think of Wagner? Wagner, pardon me, Wagner as a composer and as a public intellectual. Well, as a composer, of course, he was extraordinary. I mean, I'm not a Wagner fanatic. There's some people for whom the whole world revolves around Bayreuth and the festival. And that's I've never been. I probably will never go. So I'm an amateur Wagner fan, very much so amateur. But that having been said, he had some weird ideas. Uh, his artistic influence actually was very great. He hit people all the way from our own Ralph Adams Cram to the ineffable King Ludwig II of Bavaria, whose castles at Neuschwanstein and Hohenschwangau and so forth, Linderhof, were all very much influenced by Wagner. You mentioned Lohengrin, the Knight of the Swan. Well, that had a big effect on Hohenschwangau, which is sort of a swan-themed castle. But the problem, which you see not just in Wagner, but in C.S. Lewis, a lot of other public intellectuals who are drawn to certain elements of Catholic tradition, but without embracing the Catholic faith, is that there's always something a bit missing and something else a bit crazy about them. And that's how Wagner was.
Perfect. According to the diary of Blessed Edwige Carboni, she was visited by an apparition of the Italian dictator Benito Mussolini himself, who said to her, I can't believe we're going here, Andrew. I really can't. I can't believe we're doing this. Why are we doing this?
Joe,
Okay, here we go. All right, visited by an apparition of the Italian dictator Benito Mussolini himself.
You will be visited by three spirits. the ghost of Benito Mussolini, the ghost of Francisco Franco, and the ghost of Pinochet.
Okay. All right. So Benito Mussolini himself said to her, quote, "Purgatory is terrible for me because I waited until the last moment to repent," end quote.
Okay.
He then asked her to offer her communion for the repose of his soul for 30 consecutive days. She did so, and on the 30th day, she was given a vision that Mussolini's soul entered into heaven. I have several questions. First,
I'll bet. I'll just bet you do. They just nail Coulombe to the wall. Just tack him up with a hammer and.
First, does Charles believe Mussolini is a saint in heaven?
Charles doesn't know. If he is in heaven, then of course he's a saint.
Well,
that's a big if.
Wow. Okay, that's all right. Second, what would be some good things to pray for Mussolini's intercession for?
The restoration of the monarchy in Italy.
That's okay.
The reconversion of Italy and of the Italians in the diaspora. Uh, the election of a truly Catholic Pope.
Second, okay. Lastly, do you think Mussolini went to purgatory for aligning with Hitler or trying to ban pasta? Why can't it be
Why
both?
not both?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, why not both? I mean, the other thing too you got to bear in mind is that he was a terrible adulterer. Number one. Number two, he was definitely not a believer in any real sense for most of his career. Uh, I mean, Cardinal Schuster of Milan was believed that he had died reconciled to the church, and I hope that's true. Cardinal Schuster is maybe a saint, but he's certainly a blessed. And he had all sorts of spiritual insights. And, I hope Mussolini saved his soul. I hope everybody saves their soul. I have a hard time believing some people might have. I mean, I certainly would have much more hope for Mussolini than for Hitler.
my mom has really gotten into. She has developed
Mussolini?
no, not at all Mussolini. No, a fascination with purgatory and sort
Yeah.
of praying for the holy souls in purgatory. And she's watching all these programs on EWTN on purgatory, which are quite good actually, a lot of them, and reading a lot of books on saints involved in them, and Tan Books has a lot of good books on purgatory. But I think she would take umbrage with the concept of, oh, you're out in 30 days. Like Mussolini being out in 30. Like, it's one thing to be saved. It's another thing to be saved in 30 days, in my humble opinion. You know what I mean? I mean, it's another thing not to be saved in 30 days, but to get through purgatory in 30 days after all of that.
Our prayers accomplish amazing things, but I'm not going to pretend to know. I don't know. I mean, it's a whole different state, and I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay. Another question from Andrew. Spoiler alert. In the closing scene of 1968's Planet of the Apes, the character of George Taylor, played by Charlton Heston, discovers that he is actually on Earth 2,000 years in the future, and not on an alien planet as he previously thought. In this iconic scene, Taylor discovers the ruins of the Statue of Liberty, which presumably means that the so-called Forbidden Zone is in New York City. My question is, does this mean that the Ape City is actually in New Jersey? And where in New Jersey does Charles believe it could be?
He believes that it was probably Fort Lee.
That's just barely across the river, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably Fort Lee.
All right. And lastly, last question or request from Andrew is that now that Charles has returned from his Three Kingdoms tour, I was wondering if he could sing for us a rendition of the Northern Lights of Aberdeen.
No. No, 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 no. No Northern Lights of Aberdeen. Sorry, ain't happening. Not on my watch. No.
Oh.
No. I'm not doing it.
A little itsy
I don't do
bitsy.
the Northern Lights of Aberdeen.
No?
I don't do the Northern Lights of Aberdeen. I've never done them. I'm not doing them now.
Is there some sort of stigma attached with that? Is there something we don't know? What aren't you telling us about the Northern Lights of Aberdeen, Charles?
Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you what I'm telling you about the Northern Lights of Aberdeen. Many years ago, I was working in a nightclub. I was singing, and I was taking the place of a regular fellow who did that job.
Singing
And there was
at a
yeah,
nightclub? Okay.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
This was when I was a comedian, but I would sing a bit. I'd do a bit of patter and so forth. So there was this old drunken English woman, and every night she would ask the same question: "Can you do the Northern Lights of Aberdeen?" I said, "No, ma'am, I can't." Every night for a week. Finally, on the Friday, I said, "Ma'am, I have never learned the song, and as a result of the experience of this week, I guarantee you I never shall." "Oh, well, can you sing the Northern Lights of Aberdeen?" "No, no, I can't." However, I'll give you something else.
Was that
You
was was
ready?
that was that really a true story? Like
No,
I really sometimes it's hard to parse fact
no,
from
that's a
fiction
true
in your
story.
stories. Okay.
That's a true story. But I'll give you something else. You ready?
All right, ready.
Anytime you're Lambeth way, any evening, any day, you'll find us all doing the Lambeth walk. Oi, every little Lambeth girl with her little Lambeth pal, you'll find them all doing the Lambeth walk. Oi, everything free and easy, do as you darn well please ye. Why don't you make your way there? Go there, stay there. Once you get down Lambeth Way, every evening, every day, you'll find yourself doing the Lambeth walk. Oi, having a bowl of chalk. Oi, doing the Lambeth walk.
This is. Did we talk about this before? You introduced us to these weird British like dancing things.
Did I? I don't remember.
Because there was another one where the people. It was like this traditional folk dance with sticks.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that's totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally different than the sword dance. No, no, no,
Yeah.
no relation.
Okay.
The Lambeth walks out of the 20s or 30s, the interwar period in England, back when
Oh.
I was young.
Okay. Okay.
Back then, before when I was,
Yeah.
a teenager, sort of in 1932.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. It's just
Well, if you're as young as you feel.
uh all right, that's gonna do it for the pre-show, everyone. But wait, there's more. Stick around for the full episode. That's inspired by you, Brian. He loves when the pre-show ends, but he always thinks to himself, "But wait, there's more."
There are. Sorry, no CODs.
Void where prohibited. Act now.
Operators are standing by.
All right,
Some assembly required.
see you in the full episode, guys.
Be good. Ciao, ciao.